The closing day of the high-level conference on the Decade for Action, Water for Life, rounded out with a series of panels and discussions highlighting major aspects of water cooperation, including streamlining regional policies, promoting multi-stakeholder partnerships for water and sanitation, and galvanizing strong support for the UN's new development agenda and its water-specific goal.
The challenge is so huge. Let's put it in perspective. So the World Bank alone cannot do very much. It's better to leverage all the different actors, whether it's community organizations, the private sector, obviously local governments. So as a bank, we want to work with as many interested parties to make a success of what we're trying to do.
Everyone is important in this process, from the president of the country who gives the messages, of presidents of the countries, UN as a system, but also a simple farmer who uses this water or uses land, natural resources which are very expensive to us now, expensive to the future generation. We have to bring this understanding that we cannot bring them back very often.
Here in Dushanbe, a city at the foothills of some of Asia's tallest mountain ranges, water can be found everywhere. The city's gardens and public areas are adorned with carefully maintained flora and bountiful water fountains. And it makes sense. Freshwater rivers originating deep in the mountains means there's really never any shortage of it, making it a resource of both practical and aesthetic value. But officials say Tajikistan's leadership on this issue speaks to an even greater need for cooperation on water resources among regional and global players.
Tajikistan is the country from where going to the downstream produce more than 60% of all the water resources for Central Asia. As well, the initiative for water decade 2005-2010, which was adopted by the General Assembly resolution, shows that the water problems around the globe are the issues which should be considered by the member states, countries, UN professionals, water experts, to see what could be done to make life easy.
As you may know, 93% of Tajikistan are mountains, and this is one of the main water reservoirs for the entire region. We provide up to half of the entire fresh water for the Central Asia region. So since we have all these glaciers, including one of the thickest and biggest glacier, Fetchenko in Tajikistan, we think that it also plays a very important economic and political role, not only for Tajikistan, but also for the entire region.
What they're proposing now is that we need not only a dedicated goal for water, but we need a dedicated process for water. And this new decade will be that kind of dedicated process for water. And Tajikistan has been provided leadership in this context already in the last decade, and they have set up a political process in the General Assembly related to water that didn't exist, and they have done it.
But the importance of water goes beyond its use as a resource for drinking and in sanitation. It is also inextricably linked to social and economic development, particularly in countries heavy with agriculture, as well as for good nourishment to some of society's most vulnerable, like children and youth.
These countries, the countries of the region, Central Asian region, agriculture is not the most efficient industry, and in this sense we have to bring the understanding to people, to farmers, to the politicians, how important it is to develop new technologies, new ideas, programs in order to have water as a resource which we have to maintain for our future generations.
By the end of the conference, a plan for the future began to crystallize. Participants and organizers had identified where the remaining efforts need to be made, who should be part of the process, and how to go about it.
We need to have the right institutional framework, so the right policies and strategies need to be in place, and the international community, in terms of developing countries, they need to make sure they support the right approaches to making sure good services are being put in place for people to have better quality services and basically better health and better quality lives.
The history shows that sanitation lags behind water supply. So as we move forwards, I think we need to redouble our effort on the sanitation agenda. And the whole equity issue, trying to ensure that all people get access to water supply and sanitation, whether they're rich or poor, male, female, vulnerable, non-vulnerable, etc.
Although consensus was strong on the need for a new decade of action on water cooperation, the job is not yet complete. Delegates must present the idea to the United Nations General Assembly in order to make it official. However, with so much unfinished business in the areas of water and sanitation, it's clear that greater action is still needed. Therefore, this conference might be seen as the start of a new future of universal access to water and basic sanitation for all. Reporting from Dushanbe, Tajikistan, Brendan Pastor for South South News.